This talk is Naming the Difference Makes a Difference. There's a legend about a small town in Germany where people had 100 different words to describe beer. Some for beers they like, some for beers they dislike, and one for a beer they'll never drink because it's named after a virus. So this talk is about something called key differentiations, a concept used in nonviolent communication, also known as NVC, to describe the sometimes seemingly insignificant difference between things, a difference that is actually so meaningful, a difference that makes all the difference. Key differentiations are there to make clear. I'm talking about this, which is not to be confused with that. I'm talking about this, which is not to be confused with that. So please don't confuse this with that. They are really not the same. And I claim that we should aim to care about how we name things. So here are some examples from nonviolent communication. There's a difference between a request and a demand. It's not so much about the words you use, or if you ask it politely like a pro, it's about your openness to hear them say no. Will there be no consequence when they say no, I won't share your video or marry you or read your report? Are these answers something you're really going to support? Then there's a difference between empathy and other ways to react. Am I giving you advices or fixing you when you tell me that something hurts? Or am I willing to simply listen, see things through your eyes, and really connect? Instead of correction or advice, empathy is presence and connection. There is a huge difference between appreciation and praise. When I'm praising someone, I'm judging them positively. You are a really good leader, great job. Practicing this makes people dependent on my approval and doesn't create real connection because I'm not revealing anything about myself. Appreciation is something totally different. It's not claiming to tell people what they are. It's telling them what they did and how that enriched my life. Your Kanban workshop showed me how we could deliver faster without working harder. Thank you, that helped. So what do you say? Isn't it more honest and beautiful this way? Then there's a difference between a need and a strategy. According to NVC, I don't need a coffee, a car, or a cat. It teaches just strategies to meet needs like connection, pleasure, efficiency, or care. Why does this matter? Because knowing this frees me from having to hold on to things. There are many ways for me to meet my needs. So my colleagues and I asked ourselves, what might be key differentiations that matter in the work of an Agile coach? Which differentiations do we insist on? What makes a huge difference for us? We came up with about 30 of them, and here are my favorite ones. Complicated versus complex. In complicated problems, there is a clear relationship between cause and effect. Sadly, your industry is nothing like that, and no one can tell you on which horse to bet. That's where design thinking comes handy. You want a product that's customer friendly? You gotta empathize and experiment. Problem space versus solution space. You got a huge challenge on your plate. Don't just look for a solution, explore the problem first. Look at different perspectives and name needs that are unmet. And then in the solution space, brainstorm, prototype, and validate to learn cheaply, often, and fast. Consensus versus consulted decision. I wonder, is this something you've tried? First to decide how to decide. To reduce the risk you're taking, improve your decision making because consensus is slow and has a high price. So why not let one person decide after they got enough advice? Push versus pull. When delivery is crawling and multitasking has no end, WIP limits are your dearest friend. Pull systems are efficient, nice, and easy. And push systems, they hardly innovate because no one has slack time and everyone's always busy. Intuitive interpretation versus model-based interpretation. Agile coaches make observations, but how do we make sense of the things we observe? One way is to just follow our gut feeling, but that kind of turns us into intuition bottlenecks. So how might we make sense while teaching others our way of sense-making? The answer is mental models. Mental models are ways to explain the world, and there are tons of them, for team dynamics, for conflicts, and so on. By interpreting my observations using mental models, I'm helping others understand my reasoning in a way that they can later reuse. Group versus team. Did you ever put your money into a pocket that has a hole? That's what team building is like when people simply don't share a goal. And even a goal is not enough for a group to become a team. So please only proceed if people really need each other in order to succeed. So let's start harvesting the learning. I shared some of the many key differentiations NVC is making: request versus demand, empathy versus other ways to respond, appreciation versus praise, and need versus strategy. There's more where it came from, so feel free to talk to me if you want to go deeper. Then we looked at some Agile coaches' key differentiation: complicated versus complex, problem space versus solution space, consensus versus consulted decision, intuitive interpretation versus model-based interpretation, and push versus pull. Obviously, there are many more, and I'd love to hear which ones you would make. Key differentiations make a difference. They're like a data structure that allows you to precisely describe what things are really about by comparing them to other things. Our reality is complex, and key differentiations help us express the many facets between this and that. So I started with a story about 100 words for beer. I hope what I've shared today will help you to clearly express the meaningful differences in the areas you most care about. Remember, naming the difference makes a difference. Thank you.